A widow is not supposed to be seen in the morning.
What?
You know how many times people have told me, it's your karma, you lost your husband. When they ask about how it happened, then I explain that my husband was in the Navy.
Even if it was expected or not, it's a loss that's humongous.
It's a winner takes it all situation. So there is no representation from those sides. They said that we don't need the peace secretariat anymore. But I must say that our rehabilitation program was very good. But our integration was not very successful. We have an obligation to Geneva. Fortunately or unfortunately, whether you like it or not.
What do you think is the most important lesson about leadership?
Leading is not about ordering. Leading is about, in my classes now are young people and they have no clue whatsoever as to what has happened. They are looking at these subjects just as subjects to get through and get the IR diploma and not to understand.
Hi everyone, my name is Amina, and today on my 5th episode of Picking Up the Pieces, I have with me a very special guest. She's my lecturer, and she's also someone I really admire. She's one of my favorite lecturers, in fact. Her name is Dr. Dayani Panagoda. Dr. Dayani is an executive director of the Institute of Monitoring and Evaluation. Time is what it's called. She also has extensive experience working in the development sector. In Sri Lanka, she's worked also for the SLMM, that is the Sri Lanka Monitoring Mission, with the peace process during and after our war. She has a career that spans quite a lot of work, especially in relation to the war, and she has a very a bunch of interesting stories to share. I'm so excited to have her here with me today. She is also a lecturer at the KDU, that's the Kotalawala Defense University in Colombo. Dr. Dayani, thank you so much for being here with me. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me, and I beg your pardon because I just recovered from a bad cough, so I might cough.
No problem.
But thank you very much for having me, and it's interesting. I watched your episodes, and it's very interesting that we need to talk about these pieces of peace. Yeah.
Yep. I'd like to get into the conversation and see what you have to say about all of this. We know we're 16 years after the war, so it's almost 2 decades. Some people do have the opinion that it's time to stop talking about the war and move on. We have our opinions about that. So I'd like to ask you specifically, knowing a little bit of your story, knowing where you come from, going through your lectures. The war is over. It's been 16 years since the end of the war. And we often hear of the stories of the war widows from the North and East. And those stories are extremely important for us to hear and understand and make sure we make decisions that those wives and mothers and family members are treated well. But we rarely hear about the story of a military wife or a military mother, the families of the military, people who died while in active service. Can you talk a little bit about why that story specifically is not heard, considering that this country has had quite a history with conflict? We've lost so many people in military. All of them have wives, all of them have girlfriends and families and children. How come we've not heard this story?
Interesting perspective, because I even myself have not thought of as to whether we had this, whether we have had these conversations in the past. Maybe because due to reason that they are being looked after by the military after the loss of their loved ones, either the husband or the father. So the family gets a kind of a support from the respective military institutions in terms of, because they are government officials, services and rendered, and then based on that there is a proper legal procedure and proper administrative procedures. So therefore the women, especially the young war widows, may not have been spoken out about, you know, their situation. However, I would like to say that the trauma that the women have gone through is equally from north to south, east to west. Because you lose your husband or your father, and some like very young age. So that trauma, the kind of a experience that everybody has gone through, including myself, is unique, common. At the same time, it is unique because unique and common. Why I say that is unique because to whom you belongs to, which side you belongs to. And it's also about like how I can give you one example. When I was talking about reconciliation, social cohesion, and when I was doing various drafts for the national policies, when I go to the north and east, when I speak to them without introducing me as a war widow, I did not get much of an attention, or they did not open themselves to me, or there was no stories to hear. When I tell my story, they see that, aha, so she is also one of us, although that she is committed from the other side. So then they realizes there is no sides. The sorrow that we go through, the pain that we have borne with for years and years is the same. So then they open. So that's very interesting to see that why these stories are important. Therefore, the stories from the south, not necessarily only on the military side, but also the others. You know, the civilians who were kind of being caught in the bombings, in like, you know, the Dehiwala bombing or various other places even. So that I mean, that is important for reconciliation, to see that we all have gone through trauma in whichever the way, whichever the group we belong to, ethnic group maybe, or the professional group maybe, or whatever the way that we describe ourselves. I mostly go as a war widow than a more military war widow, you know. So because I just don't want any leverage over it. So when I speak to people, I speak about being a war widow. Then when they ask about how it happened, then I explain that my husband was in the Navy. Otherwise, it's a kind of a widowhood that came because of a war, 30 years of war. And there are, like, you know, I'm just one person, but there are many thousands, we all know, with this status, and those who do not speak at all about it.
Because a couple of months and years ago, when I was soon after Easter Sunday going around with some of the volunteers and interviewing and taking down the stories for the rest of the survivor community of the Easter Sunday attack, to understand the survivors' story, people who lost their family within a matter of a second because somebody decided to blow themselves up. When we were doing that, I was especially also interested in the stories of those 3 police officers who lost their lives because Fatima Jifri blew herself up in her home in Panagoda soon after those bombings took place on Easter Sunday. So police officers lost their lives too. And we were trying to see how we can get in touch with those wives of those 3 police officers who also had little children and talk to them about what they went through. And we found it extremely hard to get in touch with them. And I was just wondering, no one's told me this, but I was wondering, is it a requirement when you're in the police or the military not to speak about your stories or not to share your stories?
No, I mean, I have spoken in many forums. And to be honest with you, for the first few years, I was very sort of reluctant to talk to people in general. Not only about the loss, but everything else. Like, I didn't go to functions. I didn't face big gatherings. I just went to work and back home. And I was working at Kotalal Defense University at that time. So I just minded my own work. And I was shy for the very reason it's a cultural taboo to become a widow. You know, and especially a young widow. And they think that if you are in a gathering and if you kind of dress nicely, and if you are there to sort of enjoy your life, they think, oh, no, 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 that's not for you.
Yeah.
So that is one reason that most of the people don't talk.
Okay.
Otherwise, there is no such a kind of a restriction from the military to say not to say anything.
Okay.
But we also have, like, unlike the mothers in the north and east, we are, I mean, I'm thankful to you and everyone, the taxpayers, how they have kind of contributed towards these all war widows.
Okay.
Not only war widows, that we have the system of pension, the orphans and widows and orphans fund and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is some part of the taxpayers' money coming. So I'm very, very thankful to that. But then it's not only the monetary aspect that you need in life to move on after such a disaster.
Yeah.
It's just that the connection, it's just that belongingness, which I think after maybe about 10 years only, I started feeling that I belong to this society. Therefore, I move out, I go out, nothing doing. I'm not going to hide myself, and I will be normal as much as I could, because I have a kind of a life.
Yeah.
So mainly, I think people are reluctant to come forward because, and also nobody approaches them. Now, you searched about me, and I met you when I was doing lectures, and so that you knew, because I was bringing my story also into the teaching, right? But then there may be many others. The stories may be much more interesting than mine.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that nobody approaches.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is no restriction or kind of asking us to not to talk about it. But I think it's that we also try to find and say, okay, they are okay because they are being well looked after. Therefore, we don't need to talk about them. You talk, if you want to talk about the others.
Okay.
Which I think we have to, if we are to move with reconciliation and dialogue and make that table like encompasses with everybody, then you must bring the widows from all walks of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not only the military, the police, and then the other side, the LTTE, and the politicians. They have lost their lives, so that the wives are being sort of nobody talks to them.
Yeah.
I know one other person is that Mrs. Ashraf,
Okay.
who is always speaking about the whole setup and the way that she moved on and all that. She's one of those politicians I see that, losing her husband, taking the lead. And so I think that is something that we need. I mean, of course, Mrs. Bandaranaike.
Yeah.
But I think most of the people are waiting to tell their story. But we are not collecting their stories.
Okay. There are so many stories like Dr. Dayani's that need to be shared. But equally, there are tons of you out there who need to share your own stories and ideas. I know, because I've had an itch to share my thoughts for a long time before I finally did it. But I've had the privilege to have a lot of great people support me. This is why I co-founded Luna Yeti, my personal branding studio, with my partner. Luna Yeti has helped me and several others produce beautiful videos that help build their personal brand online. We help people all the way from ideation to filming to editing, giving them great quality content that is unique to their voice. All so humanity's best ideas can flourish. I want everyone to have the privilege of someone behind them helping them succeed. So if you are looking to start sharing your ideas and want it to look and sound great, check the link in the description for more information. Now, back to our conversation. I think that's where you stand out for me, because you're the only military wife I know, or the war widow I know. I'm sure there are more, I just don't know them, who is actively telling their story to students and colleagues and people. And that just raises awareness, because it opens your mind. Because I also feel like sometimes it might be possible that we look at people who work in the military as people who've anyway kind of signed up to maybe one day getting killed. That could happen. That's why parents are very worried for their children who join the military. So there is this sense of, oh, we've signed up to it, which is, I'm wondering if that is also one of the reasons why those wives and those mothers keep those stories to themselves, because society is expecting that to happen to them. And then I'm also thinking about, even if that is true and they're expecting death and death happens, still it's a love you lost, right? A human being with a personality, with quirks, with ways in how they live that have touched you. The person decided to get married, the person decided to live with that person, and that person, and then they die. Even if it was expected or not, it's a loss that's humongous. And if you think about dealing with that on a large scale, all these families, all these wives, how did you personally go through that? Because there's society watching you, there's you dealing with this loss. What was it like for you when it happened?
I think more than being a war widow, military widow, a widow, the whole concept of widow in South Asia and especially Sri Lanka, India, is seen as a bad omen. I have had many experiences among my colleagues, with my own peers, how they try to marginalize you, exclude you in certain gatherings, and but I never took it for to my heart, and I never allowed that to kind of dictate terms on me, where that I become a kind of a person that I will go into a darkness and suffer mentally.
What do you mean by bad omen? That you are a bad omen to other people?
Yeah, a widow is not supposed to be seen in the morning.
What?
First thing in the morning, if you meet a widow, that's a bad thing. It's yeah, and also widows for the auspicious occasions like the kind of marriages and all that. You are like not being welcome very much. So it is okay for me because I did not experience that much because I am a career woman, professional, being a lawyer, being a lecturer at Defense University. I had my own grounds to stood up in terms of any such situations. But you imagine a young, very fragile woman in the village losing her husband at the age of 20, between 20 to 30. And then now, and also this loss is sometimes it's soon after the marriage life. I lost my husband soon after, like it is 2 years. We did not even celebrate the second wedding anniversary. So that is because bad. You know how many times people have told me, it's your karma, you lost your husband. And I always used to say, I don't know. Even from the day one, I was saying, no, it's not my karma. It's his karma that he lost his life. Otherwise, he would have had a very nice life with me. I mean, see here, how can I take the blame for that? And the other thing is, when you ask the question like, you expect, I don't think none of us, not a single military person's wife, expected their husbands to die. We all believed, we all prayed, we all wanted to make sure that your husband or your father to be safe. So none of us, I think, was expecting it. And it happens. We know it's happening, but still you believe, you trust, and you pray on a daily basis that he will be safe. So the moment that you get the news, it's shocking, and it's trauma, and it's pain. So that is the commonality in us and in others. So although that, yes, you signed up to serve in the military, but you did not sign up for the death. That's the feeling that we get. That's the feeling all women feel it about. Now, even today, when you talk to the friends and their wives, they always say, so thankful that my husband survived, and so thankful that the war ended, because otherwise we will be on pins. And it's and they also say that's so unfortunate that you had to sacrifice your husband. So I say, no, he came, he did what he got to do in this life, and he left. And that has nothing to do with me or my karma or this decisions that he made. It's about, you sign up for military knowingly or unknowingly that you will be gone where you don't even know. So it happens. I think I started learning about the life cycle, and I'm a Buddhist in the sense I believe in that philosophy. So that helped me a lot in terms of understanding how I should live my life. So that's why basically I always say that in my life I did my studies all the way up to the kind of PhD, and also I never stopped working. I'm still working.
Yeah.
And also I started doing lots of charity work. So that kept me busy.
Yes.
And also to see that other sufferings. For example, if you go do charity work at cancer hospital, you think, what is it? What are you crying for? The suffering that they go through, the parents or the wives or it's unbelievable.
Okay.
So then I realizes, no, there is a reason for everything. So let me, I think most of the women are like that, those whom I spoke to. But of course, I'm not saying that we have never had bad times or challenges, or that people looked at us on a different way, seeing us. Yeah, always it happens in society. And I was anyway outgoing person. So but when I think now as to certain things, how I responded, I feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done that at that time. But now I'm kind of quite content with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, you're doing amazing.
Yeah.
I also feel like, I don't know if this is the right word to use, but you're using the loss that befell you to benefit so many other people. By sharing your story and by doing the work that you're doing, other people's minds are opened. And if someone has been through what you have been through, they will get inspired to kind of follow in your footsteps, to think the way you think, if they're suffering a lot, On that note, you said that your husband was in the Navy. We who are outside military, we're just normal lay people, we don't know much about what happened exactly in the war. And I think it's very common among my circles to not understand how the Navy was affected by the LTTE during our war. You said he lost his life as a Navy officer, right?
Yeah.
Can you take me through how a Navy officer got killed by the LTTE?
Yeah, I mean, before that, I would like to also to remind you that I was lecturing at Kotala Defense University, and my students, I think I lost about 70 of my students who went through the KDU various intakes, and I was teaching law at that time at Kotala Defense University. So they were like from the Army, Navy, and Air Force. So
So these were students you knew?
Yes. And
Okay.
even with my husband's incident, I lost my student as well. One of my students from KDU Intake 11.
Okay.
Right? So we just celebrated KDU Intake 11 28th, 32nd anniversary
Okay.
on 19th of October.
Okay.
That was the day that I lost my husband, as well as they lost their batchmate. So I actually told them about it.
Okay.
And they knew it. So it's because I was in the military that I have seen. By the time that I lost my husband, I saw many, and I attended many funerals of my students, either from the Army or the Navy or the Air Force.
Okay.
Navy did a big, Navy's contribution towards the ending the war, protecting the country's sovereignty or the territory was huge.
Okay.
Later on, only that they moved into the kind of inland, because there was not enough support from the military, the army, basically army. They were also managing certain strategic points. But at the same time, they were the sole kind of protector of the waters. Now, I lost my husband in North Pulmude, where he was on a fast craft, what you call Doras, right? And then because they were engaging with the LTT boats that were kind of doing some activities in the sea in the night. So they were like everywhere. So the Navy's role was like it's equally important like the Air Force as well as the military. Excuse me.
Yeah, please. Take your time.
And also remember that Navy went all the way to near Indonesia and destroyed LTT ships with weapons. So there were quite a lot of work that has been done by the Navy. And Navy's role was not necessarily only engaging with the LTT or the enemy, but also protecting the fishermen, because you need to understand who is enemy, who is a fishing folk, to understand that you can't attack them. And if there is something like that, and also you know that Indian trawlers, Indian fishermen were also coming onto our waters, so you need to be very careful. So it's that responsibility of engaging with the enemy, like in the according to the human rights, according to international humanitarian law, and according to naval warfare. And I mean, so they were like all being trained on one hand. On the other hand, they were like really doing their services to this country. You can, I mean, that is why I always say that it is important to have coast guards now to protect your, because we are an island, and which is a close proximity to the international shipping lines. So we need to protect, we need to safeguard, and Navy is the best to do that. Navy also extending its services as coast guards is important.
Would you say that the Navy suffered a lot of casualties from the war?
Oh yes, oh yes. Oh yes, not as much as the army, because that's a foot soldier. And there were lots of kind of overrunning the camps, and we lost, like for example in Elephant Pass we lost thousands, like. But Navy also faced lots of casualties. During the 3 decades, yes. And even the last phase of war.
Okay. Wow.
I think these are the stories that most of the people have not much of a, and especially I'm thankful that you are taking it, because your generation is not asking these questions. They don't even know that there was this 3 decades of war and what we went through. They remember vaguely the schools were like, some days schools were closed, and this kind of these checkings, and sometimes their buses will be checked, or the school, the parents go there and check. But other than that, they don't ask this question, why and how it happened, and who actually did end it. I'm not saying a single person, but then who did this, how it happened, why the end is in, what does the meaning of this end of the war? As you very correctly said, we ended the war. Does that mean that the conflict is over? Because war is one stage of the conflict. It has become violent and escalated to a war. But have we sort of responded to the root causes? Do we have an agreement, even understanding as to what the root causes are? Everybody still challenges. Language is not a root cause, some says. Power devolution is not a root cause, some says. So then discrimination was, no, there was no discrimination, so it cannot be a root cause for the war. So where do we come to terms with it? So that's what we need to ask questions, especially the young people, if they want a place at the table to bring about peace and reconciliation.
You're just reminding me of someone you introduced me to during one of your classes, Johan Galtung. So after one of your classes, I was looking him up on my computer and reading some of his work on Sri Lanka. So
Right.
he has come to Sri Lanka, he has worked in Sri Lanka. And there was this interview by this lady journalist, I think her name is Namini Vijayadasa. She's interviewed him in April 2009, so like just a month before the end of the war. And there's one line he said, which is something like, it might be the end of the war or it might be the end of the battle, but it's not the end of the war. And this will flare up again. He predicts it. And I know to this day the war hasn't resurfaced, but do you think the conflict could arise again?
It depends on which form. I think in future there won't be these arms like what LTT started 3 decades ago.
Okay.
Because there are many other ways that you can nowadays with the technology, with social media. Look at how Aragalaya happened.
Yeah.
It's a matter of sending a message around.
Yeah.
So it may not be war per se, like using tanks, but T-56 or whatever. But there will be definitely, I believe, if we do not address these issues, it will surface in one way or the other. And this time, if it comes, it is not as like Tamils or the Muslims or the Sinhalese. The young generation or the generation that who feels about it, feels the discrimination, feels the exclusion, will get together and come around. Unless, because I always say that this is a sleeping volcano. I really like the idea of Johan Galton saying that the battle is over, the war is not. But I would, that's why I say that the conflict is still the same.
Okay.
Because we still do not, and also there is a new player also since Easter Sunday.
Yes.
Because how people reacted to the Muslim community, and then how Tamils and Sinhalese also got together against the Muslims at that time.
Yeah.
So therefore there is new players coming in, and who knows, there's what we see is what needs to understand is why. So that why question is not being answered yet. So as long as that is not being answered, even John Paul Dedarak was here in Sri Lanka. I actually got him once to BCIS, working with people on skills for reconciliation, and where that we also had military personnel engaging in that workshops and seminars and diploma courses, and they understood how it is important both bottom up and top down approach to resolve this.
Okay. Before this episode, I spent a good deal of time reading through some of the work you have done and some of the projects you have been involved in. And so it was very interesting for me to read about what you've contributed to. And something that stood out for me was how you have worked on, you can talk about the details, but how you have worked on this National Action Plan for the exact wording is the National Action Plan on Reintegration of Ex-Combatants into Civilian Life in Sri Lanka. The meaning of that, if I were just to spell it out for my audience, these are about 12,000 individuals who fought with the LTTE, who represented the LTTE against the government of Sri Lanka. Now the war is over and there is this National Action Plan to reintegrate these individuals into Sri Lankan society. So that seems like a huge undertaking, and you worked on that. I would like to ask you, considering your background, your loss, you lost your husband from this exact same war that these people fought in, right? How did you rise to that task of now contributing to that action plan and possibly also benefiting these individuals who might have contributed to your loss?
I think everything has a purpose and a reason. Maybe I also do not know how I was dragged onto it, but I know for a fact that I was working at the Peace Secretariat at the very beginning, from 2005 to 2009, towards the end of the war, and that was I'm thankful to late Mr. Kadirgamal, because who brought me to the BCIS, and from BCIS then I was able to move on with the Peace Secretariat work.
Okay.
So I felt, if not me, who else to do?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to show a fact that it is nothing to do with Sinhala and Tamil.
Okay.
It's about something else. It's not that me fighting with either a Muslim person or Sinhala person fighting with the Tamil person. It's about this organization, and then the military, as they have a right, constitutional right, to protect the country. So they engaged with them. So that's it. So I looked in that way, and I stepped into it because I knew legal parameters, background, and I was teaching the same with the with my student to my students at Kotlal Defense University, because we did a lot of work on international humanitarian law, human rights law, to make sure that they will not fall onto these traps. And then, then I was very fortunate to work with German Development Corporation, GIZ, at that time when we were doing this national action plan. And then this national action plan supported by the UN and ILO, all the UN agencies were involved. And at that time, it was the Ministry of Human Rights and Minister of Human Rights, when Minister Mahinda Samarasinha was the minister. So we were developing this action plan because it was very important. 11,000 people were in various camps and they need their lives. So we were looking at rehabilitation, reintegration program. But I must say that our rehabilitation program was very good. It was as per the case study, as per the textbooks recommendations. But our integration was not very successful. I must say that, although that we had the few elements in the action plan, I think we were rushing through it, and also at the end of the war, it's the winner takes it all situation. So, the political will to move towards working more and more with these people was not that essential at that time. Like, oh yeah, we rehabilitated them, we are sending them to the society. But look at the trauma that the communities are facing now. They are the ones who either took your child or killed your husband or something to that effect. And then the LTT person is there in the society. So they were not ready one way or the other. And we never had that discourse as to what we need to do in terms of rehabilitation and reconciliation. And now when I think of it, I see that that whole story of the orange comes to my mind, whether I also did what I felt good for, but we went around and asked. We had focus group discussions, we had key informant interviews as to what they want as to the whole reconciliation, bringing them into civilian life, what else to be done. So if you really read that, we even talk about catch-up education for them. We even talk about employment opportunities. We even talk about for them to have the kind of entrepreneurship skills, and that those were given. So that it's not only just disarmament and demobilization. It's all about reintegration, rehabilitation, reconciliation. So the whole process.
During your work, did you ever meet any of the ex-combatants face to face? And did you feel any unpleasant feelings?
Very much, including Karuna Amman.
Okay.
And when we did this whole launch of this policy, he was present. He was the deputy minister at that time. So he was present, and many others like Pillayan and various other people who were engaged. So because we went to the Senapura camp, we spoke to them, we asked them, and also we had an opportunity to meet with the young kids who were the child soldiers, and went and spoke to them and asked them, and they did not know why they fought for. They were like, the youngest one I met was 9 years old. So he did not know actually. So this is in 2009. He is 9 years old. So he didn't know why he was there even. And he didn't know what he wants to do in future now that he is out. So that really was really painful to see. We can hate people for oh, they are part of killing of my husband, but how can I hate a 9-year-old child?
Yeah.
What can he do? Because they were sent with the gun and with the cyanide capsule, and they did their part, and my husband did his part. So I mean, I felt for them actually. This is why I want to work for non-recurrence. That is what I think we all need to work for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a mission that's worth every ounce of energy put into it. It's a very,
Absolutely.
it's a very important one.
Indeed.
I have this little notebook here that I took out of my bookshelf. I just wanted to show you. During one of our classes, I was writing notes, and I referred these notes when I was sending you that email that asking you if you would like to be a part of my podcast. And when I was referring my notes, I noticed how during one of our classes, when you were speaking about the peace process after the end of the war, I just asked you randomly, how would you rate our reconciliation process? And you said it's not as simple as that. And you kind of categorized it for me. And you said you would rate the rehabilitation process as a 9 out of 10. And you would rate the reconciliation process as a 6 out of 10. And you said you would rate the transitional justice process as a 3 out of 10. But this is your opinion. It's not like a measured, accurate thing. It's your opinion. If I may ask you, why you think rehabilitation got a 9 out of 10 and TJ or transitional justice got a 3 out of 10? What do you think in our post-war processes got us these good results, like the 9 out of 10? What did we do right? What did our leaders do right? What did the people do right working on the processes? And what did we do wrong? Like, what is that nature or quality or feature that we had in our peace process that was so bad that you would call it a 3 out of 10?
So it's we didn't do anything wrong. What we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything wrong, but we didn't do anything because, for example, when you say transitional justice, the whole mechanism, truth, mercy, non-recurrence, reparation, all those aspects of transitional justice, because transitional justice is one of the pillars of reconciliation. And it's a way towards reconciliation, and it is not only reconciliation. So the people don't understand, and also there was so much of a fear or that or I would say that there was no political will for reconciliation even to date. Even to date, we don't have that much of a will for reconciliation, although that we have established certain institutions like OMP or Office for Missing Persons, Office of Reparation, Truth and Reconciliation Secretariat. All that is like, I think we responded to Geneva, then we responded to our own queries, questions, and discourse.
Okay.
But rehabilitation, what happened was, yes, here are 11,000 LTTE cadres who were among 300,000 who came to Vavuniya after the end of the war from Nandikadal. So we need to do something about them. And we had Senapura camp in Valikanda and couple of other camps, and we categorized them into as to who the hardcore are. Some of them are still in Busa camp. So we categorized them, we brought them, and it was a very successful story of rehabilitation because it is institutional thing, and the military took the lead, supported by the international organizations such as IOM, then UN, right? So, and also the government was, and the leaders were really focusing on that part. I think when it comes to the rehabilitation, we did it in a very methodical way, like also looking into their psychosocial aspects, into their skills, into their family, but what lacked is that when we release them to the community, the reintegration part, as I say, even yesterday I was talking to someone saying that some things we may have done wrong was like releasing them without sensitizing the community, and we release them with also some of the stipends, like 25,000 rupees. So this community had been suffering, and they see that these people are coming, and all what they did was that buying a motorbike or something with that money. Actually, that money was given to them to restart their lives, but they bought motorcycles and showing off in the village, and that sends the kind of a goosebumps to the community.
Yeah.
So community sensitization and what was the right program, we didn't do much. If you remember Johan Galtung's triangle, ABC triangle, it's all about attitudes that we also need to work when it comes to peace making, because that leads to peace building. And therefore that whole thing of working towards attitudinal changes from both sides, the community as well as the perpetrators. Now they are in the same community.
Yeah.
So that failed, and that will be also looked by the community. Okay, that was not done. And then also we don't know where the compensation is coming from. When you say reparation, they don't only speak about monetary values or compensation, but also truth. What really happened, because some people know what happened to their husbands or their children, because they know it's like, even it is very much valid to the southern insurrection 89-90.
Okay.
But they know. So if they knew about it, then they need an answer. Somebody asked me, do you want to know the truth? I said, yes, I also would like to know the truth. But the thing is that my search for truth ended after 1 year of losing my husband legally, because I got the death certificate.
Okay.
But in my mind, in my kind of my world, I'm still searching for him, kind of, because
So
I
does
lost
that
him.
mean-
He went missing. I never saw his dead body. There was never a closure, right?
Okay.
But the thing is, there are mothers and the widows in the north and east, and even in south, that there is no closure. So even with the death certificate, if I still feel that I need to search for him, I feel like, sometimes, when you go around in North and East or any other country, if there is somebody who is kind of similar to him, I look twice. And then I pay very close attention to see, because maybe he always think that maybe he was in dementia, he doesn't know who he is, kind of, so we live with that.
Yeah.
We live with that. So that part we have not done. So how do you respond to a human being who has emotions? And also, I believe, on the other hand, with the transitional justice, it doesn't end. Transitional justice, the whole 4 pillars, if you work, will help a lot. Take the society into a next level. The society to respect, understand each other, believe in truth, respect in the truth, talking about it's not truth telling only, truth telling, and it's also speaking about it. It's with all that, you need to understand that society has to go into a next level. That is not being done, and I know that most of the people are again saying that you need the political will, but who is having that will? When you say political will, it's us who is electing a government. So we need to be responsible to elect a responsible government or responsible members to the parliament who speaks about the truth, reconciliation. Yeah.
Since it's been almost 2 decades since the end of the war, do you think if this government starts doing work where they actively show that now they want to restart the Truth Commission, they want to restart reparations, they want to do justly by the people, just like you, just like the widows of the North and East, so that those individuals can feel a little bit of closure, a little bit of satisfaction, and reconciliation is slowly moved towards. If this government does that, do you think the people of this country will be will they be receptive to that, considering that it's been 16 years, one, and also considering that, see, when I spoke to the survivors of the Easter Sunday attack, for the first time I interviewed some of them, and they were like, oh, media is just constantly coming to ask us questions, but we're sick of this. Nothing's really happening to our benefit. I'm sure many war widows from this war feel that way. And if a Truth Commission were to start, or any task force were to be appointed and work on reconciliation was done, this fatigue of restarting again for these war widows or family members who lost their loved ones, do you think they would be okay to restarting that work again? Or do you think, because I've also heard some people say these are wounds that have healed, why do you want to dig these wounds? Do you think those wounds have healed?
I don't think that the wounded person may have said it. It may have said it by another person who is
Yes.
really
Yes.
looking this process as just a process.
Yes,
But
never
I'm
have
saying,
I had
yeah,
an actual person who
what
has
I
lost.
feel is you don't have to restart. You need to continue what we've been doing.
Okay.
That we have two obligations. One is that we have an obligation to Geneva.
Okay.
Fortunately or unfortunately, whether you like it or not, as a nation, we have now a responsibility towards our agreements. We are in this global equation. We are not just a country or an island that we can do whatever we like. And I am sure that this time in Geneva, when they brought that resolution, we could have fought for it. So there is that obligation, and don't forget the fact that there is diaspora outside.
Yeah.
Right, so they also wants to see whether it is a political agenda or otherwise. This whole stakeholders are there still. So what we need to do is to continue with the work, because office for missing persons have been established. So we need to continue with that work, need to resolve the cases where that people wants to get the closure. Now, for example, I have the death certificate, that there are certain mothers and the widows does not have the death certificate, so there's no closure. And then I don't know whether you remember, at one point they were trying to give the certificate of absence. Now, certificate of absence and a death certificate, two different things, legally as well as psychologically as well as socially.
Yeah.
It's two different things. Yeah. So these kind of things we need to come to agreement with. We need to talk to these people. And then also reparation. The huge amount of land, property being destroyed. So how do we work, not only in the north and east, but also in the south as well, right?
Yeah.
So we need to work towards that. It's not restarting, because we don't have to go to people, because their stories are being archived. Okay. By the special task force that was established. LLRC recommendations are there. Udalagama Commission is there, Paranagama Commission report is there. So all these reports are there. And all what we need to do is to have a team to look into these recommendations and work towards recommendations, while working towards individuals and the families to make sure that they are also being sort of feeling that their voices are being heard. So it's a continued work, not restarting. And it's not that you are trying to what you call is that trying to play with that wound that is healed. I don't think that who says it is healed. It's not. I mean, 90% of the women or the mothers, or especially if you talk to them, they are not healed, because they want to see the truth. They want to see the end, right? And the missing persons, but then there are deaths also. And and also, how about the persons with disabilities because of the war?
Yeah.
They need to be healed. They need to be respected. They need to be kind of given opportunity to start their life again. And there were many programs that I urge even this government to continue with those programs. And also, every day the context changes, like at least every 5 years with the election, change of the government, this context changes. Okay. But their trauma, the pain, that it remains the same. So how do you move? Do we have a national agenda? Do we have a national policy? Do we even have a national vision? When are we going to be Sri Lankans? Now, if you look at Rwanda's case, Rwanda genocide, after genocide, there were so many efforts made. And recently I was in Rwanda. No one talks about a Hutu or a Tutsi. They say, yeah, Rwandans. Okay. Yeah, Rwandans. Nobody feels about that you are a Hutu or a Tutsi. And the young children have no idea even.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. That whether that there were like these three groups. So they are Rwandans. So when are we going to say, I mean, whilst keeping, that doesn't, I'm not saying that nobody to take me wrong saying that, oh, I'm trying to say that you forget your Muslim perspective and somebody, no, you are Muslim, right? But you are a Sri Lankan citizen, first place, right? So let it be. Something like that. So we need to take bold decisions on that and speak about it. Now, when we go out from Sri Lanka, they ask, no, what is your nationality? We all say Sri Lankan.
Yeah.
We all say Sri Lankan. The moment we come to Sri Lanka, after 1 hour of Katunayake airport, we are doing all sorts of wrong things, saying that we go under those labels.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that we need to have a national vision for that.
Do you think, you were talking about how rehabilitation, in your opinion, was done very well with these 11,000 ex-combatants, but integration was rushed, and all of these 11,000 individuals, or maybe most of them, I don't know the numbers, have been planted in society. They're expected to now live as Sri Lankans, right? Do you think they identify as Sri Lankans, these ex-combatants? Do you think they're a danger? Sensitive question, but do you think they're a danger to society or our future?
Yeah, I don't know whether because in the rehabilitation programs, though that we ask them to do that, this uniqueness of this multi-ethnic, multilingual system, that you are part of it, but you are a Sri Lankan, but I don't know how much that has gone into their, what I'm saying is inside the bubble where the reintegration took place, rehabilitation took place, they were given enough opportunity to look for a career perspective by developing their skills, their language skills, catch-up education, math knowledge, all that. But attitudinal changes, I do not know to what extent. So that is why even I said it is 9 to 8 out of 10, because there was this whole thing of psychological perspective that we need, because are we consider them as extremists? If so, then how do you change their mindset to not to become an extremist anymore? So that I would love to do a research even to do to see what's going on. But on the other hand, everybody else, forget about them. They are in the society. I think they all still go as like we are Tamils, we are Muslims, we are Sinhalese, like any other, like all of us.
Okay.
I mean, in this country, when you go for elections, even you go and vote the person who belongs to your caste.
Yeah.
So that transformation is needed. Thinking of not the caste, not the creed, but who could go to the parliament and make the decision, right decision for the country, right decision for its people, is what matters, and not the caste or not that who I know of. That's so I know it's very very sensitive area, but I think these are something. Recently I was in a panel with ambassador to Sri Lanka, South African ambassador to Sri Lanka, and he said, do you ever ask this hard question? What is the truth? And what do you mean by reconciliation? What do you want to do? So they said that it was very hard in South Africa, but they asked those questions. And that's how they have come this far. And recently I was in Belfast also. So I wanted to understand the conflict and to see. And there was, that there is in Belfast, there is this whole area with murals of various atrocities took place, and Sinn Féin headquarters, all these murals everywhere. So I asked my guide, do you bring school children here so that they learn? No, we don't talk to them about these things. If they want, they just come and see and go. But in school, what we are talking about is how that we need to deal with the past and move forward and working towards a more united Ireland, Northern Ireland. So that kind of, so everybody has different approaches. So what we need to look for is our own approach, not what has happened in South Africa, what happened in Rwanda, but lessons learned from those case studies, and to see where do we want to go, how do we bring all these people together. And what is our national, I mean, for anything we don't have a national vision, no? Every 5 years it changes, including education.
Okay, that's a lot of work to be done.
No, a lot of work to
Yeah.
be done.
Yeah. I know over the span of your career, you've worked with presidents and prime ministers and people in defense, and you've had to work with all of them, no matter what kind of personality they had. From all of this experience, especially considering that we're talking about a post-war Sri Lanka, what do you think is the most important lesson about leadership that you have learned over your career that you want to for sure take until the rest of your life?
I think the best lesson that I learned is that leading is not about ordering. Leading is about listening. Leading is about working with the others. And leading is about, there are certain decisions that you have to make. You cannot pass all your decisions to your advisors or your ministers or to your, whoever who you think, oh no, I am busy, so that other person will. Because sometimes, and especially reconciliation, especially post-war nation building, I think the leader matters. What leader says, what leader does, what leader kind of propagate matters a lot. So what I think failures, if you ask other way around, failures were some of these leaders since the end of the war did not listen to the experts or did not listen to the people who were at the ground taking these saying that, okay, this is how you need to do reconciliation, this is how you need to do peace. I remember very well at one point when we were discussing about reconciliation, when the peace secretariats, they said that we don't need the peace secretariat anymore. 2009 May we ended the war. 2009 by July, August, peace secretariat was closed. So we said, no, let's transform into a reconciliation secretariat and bring all these parties together, because there is no, it's a winner takes it all situation. So there is no representation from those sides. So bring those who can speak to the Tamil polity and the others, and let's have a reconciliation work. Let's do. Then, so unfortunate they did not listen to. And we said, peace agenda. We have to have a peace agenda. What peace you are talking about? That kind of question. And when you also said reconciliation, who to reconcile with? Whom? Now that there is nothing, there is no two sides. It's all Sri Lankans. It's easy to say it, but we need to work. Anybody to say that we are all Sri Lankans, I think maybe we have to work 100 years now. Because every year I see we go back to 5 years, kind of. So this since 2009 to 2025. No, for example, Easter Sunday bombing, Aragalaya, all that shows that how divided we are. We are a divided society. So to work towards unity and say that diversity is our strength, I think we need to work another 100 years maybe.
Considering that we need to work a lot and there's much work to be done, I know that you are influencing students on a daily basis, because I was one of your students, and you're teaching them about war and peace, and you're teaching about the psychological aspect versus the economical aspect versus the societal aspect and bad omens, and you're opening their minds to all of these different ways of thinking, right? But I remember this one time I was standing next to you at BCIS. This was an event, and the former President Chandrika was there. She came and said hi to you, and I was next to you, so I heard what she said to you. She was like, what are you doing now, Dayani? And you were like, I teach here. You just said it like very matter-of-factly, I teach here. And I was wondering if, because you've taught during the war and you're now teaching after the war, based on your tone with that answer, if you're kind of losing hope with students now that the war is over, is there something to that? What are you feeling as a lecturer during the war versus after the war, and also from your 20s all the way now to where you are now? What have you seen in students?
I think it's kind of the student today is born in like 2000 kind of, because 25 years, and then most of the students, especially in my classes now, are young people, and they have no clue whatsoever as to what has happened. Yes, there is like a 5% who are very much interested in and learning, reading. They lack reading ability, and unlike the days that I was teaching you guys, now I do daily basis give homework.
Okay.
So you go take your case study, read this, prepare your slide now itself. Remember, we had these presentations. Prepare your slide now. To be honest, I feel that they are looking at these subjects just as subjects to get through and get the IR diploma.
Yeah.
Or the postgraduate diploma in international relations, and not to understand.
Yeah.
Not to understand what my role in the society as a person for reconciliation or peace building or nation building. So it's a huge task. So I don't blame them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame the students, because that's our education system also. They don't question. Now, in my classes, always there are few like you asking questions. Everybody else, even if you ask a question, they won't answer. So, and most of the people they don't remember also what we went through.
Yeah.
Because 83, I lived through 83, I remember 88, 89, then I remember the entire kind of whole launch of ending the war from 2005 to 2009, and then it was almost we were about to celebrate 10 years of ending the war. Easter Sunday happened, and then I lived through Aragale. So I see that the shift of the objectives of people whom you see that takes the lead in this country are not really looking into kind of nation building, or that how do I say, it's about society, or that kind of an impact. What they see is as an individual. What do I get? How am I to get to A to B? And that's it.
Okay.
So that's where that we see most of the students today is very, not that kind of, they are not hunting knowledge. Unlike those days, we were like really, really hunting our knowledge, wants to speak to people, wants to read. I remember when we were like, when we were studying, if you get something folded on a newspaper, if you are to eat something, while eating, you read everything what's in the newspaper, that piece of paper. That was a generation I come from. But I can't expect that from these students also. But then you have everything. I tell them, Google, read, understand whatever the things that we say. Now, for example, I give examples as to what happened in Senchole, what happened in Elephant Pass. You Google, see, go, read, understand, search. I don't think that they have that drive, because they just want to get through the exams.
So in that case, what do you think of the leaders of tomorrow? If, God forbid, another conflict arises, because the battle is over, but is the war over? What do you think of the leaders of tomorrow?
I think for that, I'm not also blaming even the young generation, but also people of age of like 40, 50 are like, I don't see that leadership qualities in many.
Okay.
I don't see them. I don't want to pinpoint at one person or the other, but I see that we lack that skills on decision making. I think we need.
Do you think social media has contributed to that?
I think it has adversely affected people's logical thinking, analytical thinking, and critical thinking. So they, it has happened, so what? Yeah, so what? Yeah, it has happened, so what? And that may be the reason why we began the conversation saying that it has happened years ago, like we ended it in 2009. Why are you talking now? Why are you worrying about it? So that's where that we started.
Yeah.
So we come back to that.
Yeah.
There are a good number of people ask that question. Even they ask from me.
Yeah. I mean, I've been working on Easter Sunday, which, like, the war lost thousands of people. Easter Sunday and the terror attack of 2019 lost about 260 to 300 individuals, right? And it's been 6 years since then. And I've been getting that question, like, will you stop talking about Easter Sunday? Like, how long more are you going to talk about it? And it almost feels as if you're looked on as someone who's jobless, just going back to that again and again for no reason, and you have nothing else to do, which is why you keep bringing that up. But I have spoken to survivors, just like you are a survivor of the war. I have spoken to survivors, and I know that for the rest of their life, they will grieve their lost ones. So I will very proudly keep talking about the Easter Sunday attack, And this is my final question to you. As a survivor of the Civil War, as a peace builder yourself, as someone who has worked with ex-combatants and presidents and prime ministers and people who are officers graduating from the Defense University, what do you think, and what is your message for everyone watching, as leave aside all of these leadership roles you've played in bringing peace to this country and in educating students? What is your message as a survivor of war for everyone watching? I'm having a thought in my head of, the example of Malala right now. Malala was this lady who was shot because she campaigned for education for young girls in Pakistan. The Taliban shot her. And then now she's releasing a book called Finding My Way because she's finding her way. She's a girl, and she has her life, and she's gotten married, and she has her own journey. And this book is about how she doesn't like the pressures of being this activist. And so she's exploring other things. I wonder if you feel the same way, because everyone looks at you as this war widow. Me asking you questions about being a war widow. Are you sick of that? Or do you love it? What is your message for people as a war widow?
As to your question, like as a survivor, I think we all are survivors. 3 decades of war, 2 insurrections, southern insurrections. So we all are survivors. So I'm part of them. So that's how I look at it, and not necessarily as a war widow or military widow. Yes, I do speak about it, but I don't see that. Therefore, I stand up with I am a person who should be venerated or something over the others. No, being a widow is difficult in this culture. I don't know about the Muslim community that much, but Tamil community and the Sinhala community in Sri Lanka, being a widow is a kind of a nightmare, right? So in that, yes, I consider myself a survivor, but I consider myself a fighter than a survivor, because I thought, no, my life is my life. Remember, we now teach our young children also to learn to say no. Your body is your body parts is your body parts. You are not allowing others to touch them like that. You also need to understand my life is my life, and how I want to live, I decide. And so my rights are there. That doesn't mean that I have to step over on your rights. So it's a kind of what I would like to give the message to people is that don't wait till the reconciliation work done by the government. Yes, government has a role to play. They need to have an agenda with kind of an infrastructure and also the structured process. All that is true, like having a truth commission, asking that hard questions, all that is true. But I do have a role to play, each one of us. So first identify your role and play it. Then eventually, maybe 70% of the problems will be solved. Then we are civilized to sit at a table to talk about the rest of the 30%. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And if you wait till that 30% to happen before you work on 70%, I don't think it works. because it is very difficult to bring. That is what John Paul Lederach said. It's a bottom up, top down, middle way out. So I think that middle way out is our role. Everybody, most of us, is there. We are not making decisions. We are not drafting legislatures and all that. We are also not just at the grassroots level, just to listen what you say and yes sir, yes ma'am, and do it. But we are majority of this country are in that middle way out, where that you can look for, work for peace and reconciliation. Yeah, it's like everybody has a kind of a small way of simple way also.
A role to play.
Yeah, not to talk a lot big about, devolution. Without devolution, we can't achieve reconciliation. Yeah, maybe, but before that, there's so much we can do about it. Huh?
All right. I know there's a lot of work ahead, and I know you will be one of the leading voices in that work. And I wish you all the very best. I will always be there to support you. I'm a big fan of your work, and so you can always count on me. Thank you so much, Dr. Dayani, for being here, for agreeing to this conversation, for sharing your thoughts, and for sharing your story. I really, really appreciate it. And I am so excited to share it with my audience and
Thank you.
create awareness about
Thank you very
matters.
much. And Amina, the feeling is reciprocal.
Okay.
Because when you arrived at my office once with somebody's recommendation talking about Easter Sunday survivors, I was really fascinated to see as to why you want to do that and how you want. So I invite actually all your audience to take the lead like that.
Yes.
Maybe there is something that they can pick up and work
Yes.
on it, like what you are doing. So give that inspiration to young people, because to be my voice is heard enough. What I want now is to young voices to come up. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Well, that's a wrap, everyone. I had a wonderful time talking to Dr. Dayani. I know she is always doing great work, and I can't wait to see what she does next. Until next time, with my next guest, thank you so very much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you soon.